Hello and welcome to England Cricket on 99.94 Cricket every day. I'm Daniel Norcross, as I always am, and always will be until I cease to be. Broadcaster, commentator, podcaster, occasional writer, and failed wit. Alongside me, as he always is, it's the great man himself, the chief cricket writer of the Press Association, the puff pastry hangman. It is Rory Dollard. Rory, lovely to see you. We are going to be discussing today, well, at the time of recording, it is the first day of the second Test match. England, how their approach, did it fail? Is 270 odd actually quite reasonable? Doesn't feel like it to me. We'll be getting through the bones of that, looking through the weeds of that. We'll be looking at the way that England have produced this team. Who's in, who's out, Woods in, no folks, etc. And we will finally be looking at Pakistan. Their reaction to losing at Rawalpindi has been a very positive one, a very strong one, with new faces and a totally different, really, setup to their side. And finally, at the very end, we're just going to have a little look at England women's second ODI, their victory against the West Indies. We'll do more on that when the third one is over, and obviously even more as they get through their T20s. England Cricket on 99.94 is your new home for English cricket content, and we will be dropping into your podcast feed and on YouTube or the 99.94 app several times every week. So please rate, review and subscribe. Thank you for joining Cricket's conversation. So Rory, a brace of 60s, Pope, Duckett, few 30s, a lot of crash bang wallop, more runs in a session of first session of a Test match than has ever been scored, albeit a slightly longer session to accommodate Friday prayers. But 180 runs, still quite a lot. But at the end of it, Pakistan are so right bang on top, aren't they, that they should be eyeing up. They should be thinking to themselves, they bat well on day two, the game's in the bag.
Yeah, it should be said, don't know when people are listening to this, but we are talking very much in the moment and are hostages to fortune of what happens next. So I guess we're looking at the first day in its own sort of glass case as though it were a museum item. And within that, you'd say Pakistan did pretty well. They'd be happy with where they're at. But there was no sense from the England reaction that they felt that they were in the wrong place or that they had misfired in any way. I don't think they would accept that at all. Ben Duckett did media rounds for England, said they were more than happy with where they were at. And primarily, he said, and there was some truth in this because we've seen it happen before. I've been there when it's happened before. He said, you go about this a different way. Maybe you're 100 for 6 at lunch, which is not impossible whatsoever, that England could have really, on a sort of sticky situation, spinner getting into the game really early, it's not impossible that things could have gone considerably worse. So England are looking very much on the add two wickets to the total, aren't they? That's what they need to happen.
Yep.
So interesting day. It's the Stokes-McCullum philosophy unfolding in a different way. This was not outright domination like it was in Rawalpindi. They are going to have to find a different way in this game, because piling on the pressure and letting the scoreboard do its worst to Pakistan isn't going to happen, especially with Babar primed, so it would seem, to play an important central knock. So interesting, but England are dying as they lived. They are scoring runs fast. They are moving the game forward, and they're keeping the highlights really busy.
Well, look, one of the first things to say is it really has turned on that pitch. Not ragging, not like Ahmedabad, in the pink ball test, but it's slightly slower turn. But if you give it a good tweak, it's happening. We saw it with Jack Leach getting one to go past the outside edge a couple of times. He's not a big spinner of the ball. We saw it with Will Jacks, actually got one to spin from round the wicket to the left-hander, from outside leg stump. It would probably gone over the top of off stump. So there's plenty of encouragement in there for the spinners. But I'm just going to sound kind of old and insane, I suppose. But there were points at 216 for 5. There's point when Ollie Pope gets out playing the reverse sweep, when you just thought here is an opportunity to pile pressure on Pakistan. They hadn't got a wicket for a while. The two partnerships got going, didn't they? The Stokes-Jacks one and the Pope Duckett one, was it? No, or Pope, I can't remember. Pope Duckett.
Yeah, Pope Duckett, yeah.
So it was at that point when he thought, you've kind of done the hard work. But I suppose the thing with playing this way is that you're not going to go through gears, are you? I mean, is that what we're kind of learning? There is, you start the car sort of in fourth and settle on fifth.
I feel like they're starting the car on top of a very, very steep hill.
Yes.
I'm not even sure they're in any gear at all. I think they're just pulling the handbrake off and building up as much pace as they can.
Trying to reach terminal velocity, which on occasion they will do. I suppose that's how they get out.
But I think it wasn't outright silliness. I don't think you could accuse England of tossing their wickets away looking for the fences. I don't think it was that kind of game. And there are levels and shades within this Stokes-McCullum thing. And I mean, Stokes, for example, got out trying to cover the spin. He was propping forward, trying to get on top of it. Wasn't playing any kind of even scoring shot, which is rare for Ben Stokes in the current incarnation. And he pulled off, we should just say, shouldn't we? He pulled off a facial expression that was going to be up there with Virat Kohli to Adil Rashid and Stuart Broad, the broad face meme, and my kids when I've caught them doing something they shouldn't do. It was properly, he was caught with his hands in the cookie jar, wasn't he? Maybe he was thinking, what is Brendan going to say to me for getting out defending?
I think you could well be right. And look, you're right. It was a nuanced approach today. Duckett went hard against a new ball, definitely. Pope going at a runner ball. He's a busy player. He's going to look to do that. He got off the mark with the reverse swept four, which I've just got to get used to. I promise I will. I mean, going to Karachi in a week. I can't afford to be a completely wretched old buffoon.
I thought that's why they'd
I've got a lot
signed
of
you.
work to do in a week. But, well, there's an element of that. Yeah, definitely.
You've got to stick with the brand.
Get the average age up a bit. Yes, there's truth to all of those things. And yes, and you're right that Stokes played a different kind of knock. He didn't go swiping as he had done in the second innings at Rawalpindi. Got out for a duck, spooning it up in the air. I guess it was more the approach at the back end. And this is where I just don't know. Jack Leach playing a reverse sweep off his first ball. He's got Mark Wood going great guns at the other end. There might have been a case just for defending it. Jimmy Anderson, when Wood is going well, in days gone by, he would have batted for somebody at the other end. Now you don't bat for anyone at the other end. And that's something else we've got to get used to, because you just felt that there might have been another 30, 40 runs in there with that slightly more conventional approach by the tail. But I guess the fact is that the tail's been liberated to play the way they do. We've seen Jack Leach last summer was hitting inside-out cover drives over long off. So, it's going to be
as well, I would say it might be the case that the word had come down from the top and from Duckett in particular that the sweep was going to have to be the way to go, because they hadn't seen a lot of Abrar Ahmed. They said that actually they had very limited footage of him, and that most of the footage that they had was from the nets. And so they were quite unusually so at this level of the sport. They were a little bit light on analysis, I think. And Duckett said at the end of the day's play, when you sweep the ball, it takes out the question of which way it's going to turn, because you are negating the spin almost by playing cross bat. So I wonder that Duckett went there really early. Abrar clearly had a lot of success in the morning session, got 5 for in the morning session, looked like he was on for all 10. And I wonder if the word came down to the tail. If you don't know what it's doing out the hand, get on the sweep, and that might be the way. Listen, it didn't work, but that was something perhaps that was sort of working away in the background.
Right, we're going to take our first short break. When we come back, we're going to look at the composition of this England team. Wood is in, fast bowler on a turning track. Ollie Robinson is in, but he's not bowled a ball yet. So, give us a couple of seconds and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. Whatever your team, we have the show for you on podcast, YouTube, or on the 99.94 app. We have India, England, South Africa, West Indies, and now Sri Lanka covered. If you want to find us, the best way is to follow us on social media at 9994DM by downloading the 9994 app or Google 99.94 on podcast. We speak cricket.
Welcome back. Yes, Ollie Robinson, man of the match in the last game. Potentially contentious, but I'm not sure. He took crucially important wickets. Got wickets on a really lifeless surface. He's not bowled yet. Joe Root's bowled a lot. Will Jacks has bowled a lot. Jack Leach opened the bowling. Jimmy Anderson bowled 2 overs and was taken off after taking a wicket. Vum, thank you very much. Mark Woods bowled a bit and bowled at an extreme pace. Did England miss a trick? Did they not really think it was going to turn that much? Or was there only other spinning option, Abrar Ahmed? And yes, he's in the squad, but I think, it's not an open secret, but we're not surprised if he just goes and soaks up the atmosphere and wanders around with the team for 3 games rather than be plunged into a test match at his tender age.
The only thing about that latter point is that you are inviting Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum to make a conservative decision in Karachi next week if they lose this game. And they don't know how to. They don't know how to make the safe decision. I didn't expect Abrar Ahmed to play this week if they lose. And if Pakistan think that a spinning pitch is their best way to win and they produce another one in Karachi, I wouldn't bet against it. I wouldn't bet against Abrar Ahmed playing. With the team this week, we are, as ever, when you're in the middle of a match that has yet to reveal itself, you can only suggest half the story. It's about the change that I thought England would make. Anderson had to play. Such control, such ability to manipulate the game regardless of conditions. And when England weren't sure what they were going to get, because they weren't, there was talk that Pakistan didn't get the pitch they wanted in Rawalpindi, so why would England really be sure of what they could get here? So Anderson plays. Robinson, perfect. Looks like he has to play, because if the ball reverses, he really came to the party. Livingston's out. So you look around and you think, well, actually, Woods, your X factor, and he got 97.3 miles an hour today. So they weren't.
I know.
They weren't wrong. So they picked the team that I thought they would pick. There is logic to each of the selections, and within that, does it look slightly lopsided to what your ideal 11 would look like? Yeah, it does a little bit. But England saying we are going to go out to Pakistan and play Jack Leach, Abrar Ahmed, Liam Patterson-White, Dom Bess. I'm going to spin Babar Azam into a frenzy. Don't know. Play to your strengths, and by and large, they're picking their strengths, and I find it hard to sort of roll them over the coals for that.
So, do you think the way that Stokes has rotated his bowlers? I mean, so much Root. I know he's a different kind of off spinner, obviously, to Will Jacks. He's more round arm, and Jacks is taller, gets more bounce. But do you think that is because they're absolutely anticipating that this ball is going to reverse after about 30 odd overs? I mean, how many overs are we into this innings?
Yeah, it seems ambitious. Crossing the fingers stuff, that, isn't it?
It is a little bit, but they've brought Wood on to bowl into the surface to scuff up one side, quite obviously, and also it's one of his strengths. And testing out the Pakistanis against a short ball at 97 miles an hour is no bad tactic. So I just wonder if that was their thinking, really. It's save our quicker bowlers. They're going to do some bowling in this game anyway. That is just a given. And we're going to need them to do that. Best not to do it on the first day where it's avoidable. It's a long, there's still 4 more days in the test. It won't go that far. Of course it won't, because England are playing. But
I don't know.
They're not that short, by the way. They're not that short. Everyone was going, oh no, Multan, it's all foggy. Not that bad. They started on time. We got through till later than they got through in Rawalpindi, so
again, I think we have to catch up a little bit. And the methodology you've outlined there suggests that England weren't necessarily going all guns blazing for a wicket, and that is what that is. That they're always trying to get a wicket. They made that abundantly clear last week, and so I think it'll work sometimes. Sometimes it won't. If Joe Root's bowling early in the first innings, it's because England think there's a percentage there for them. It's not because he's holding the fort. Because England want to be in the game fast and moving it. So Root is a different one, isn't he? He is a bit pick and mix, and he sticks his hand in the bag and sees what comes out, and it could be a fluffy banana, or it could be.
But did he not get 5 at Ahmedabad? Was it? Did he get 5 at Ahmedabad?
He got a cheap 5, didn't he? And he's had another one in Port Elizabeth, I think, which has a new name that I can't pronounce. Thank you. Bless you. So yeah, I would be surprised if Root wasn't an attacking play from Stokes. It didn't come off particularly, but I think that's probably where it came from. Where they go with this, not sure. They didn't pick Overton. I suppose he was the only spare bowler. They had Overton and Ahmed. Wouldn't have expected either of those to play. I don't think. So they've got what they've got. And it's more a question that may, the question that may develop and that may unfold is right back to English spin. Not where's the options? Are counties giving people enough chance? Or is Jack Leach exactly the kind of number one spinner English cricket is designed to create? Probably he is. And there's a high performance review that was partially looking at that, and we should probably do some kind of deep dive into it one day.
Oh, I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait. One final thing, though, on the composition of England's side. No Ben Folkes. And understandable, but keeping on a turning track is quite the skill. And Ollie Pope is a very noble cricketer and not a bad keeper, but he's not Ben Folkes. Was there just a hint, even though the England management said we want to be quite clear, Ben Folkes is our number one keeper, this doesn't reflect where we'll be going next year, for example. I mean, next year in English conditions could be Chris Wokes back at 8, in which case Folkes at 7 is absolutely fine. But Johnny Bairstow could well be fit next summer. One would hope so.
Should be, should be for New Zealand.
He's coming along pretty well. Saw him the other day at the Lord's Taverners do. He was looking, not nimble, but he was getting around okay. Excuse me. The obvious sort of little feeling was, does this mean Bairstow might get the gloves again next year? Because he'd come in instead of Folkes and that way, because you've got to fit Bairstow in there. How you're dropping either Pope or Brook is hard quite to see. Root and Stokes are obviously definitely there, and you've got 2 openers. So how does Bairstow get back in the team? Or put another way, how does he not get back in the team? So there's your conundrum.
Yeah, there is. There's an issue to be sort of confronted here, because Bairstow has to play. What a year. As we're coming to the end of 2022, you've got to just take your hat off to that bloke. And what he did in the summer, he also got, a nice good ton in Antigua, got a ton in Sydney. Just a great year. So there should be no question about him coming in. Whether you want to compromise that red hot streak of form with the bat and put the gloves back on him when you've just about sorted it out, I don't know. But the interesting, the needle that's working away at all this is Harry Brook. And it's Harry Brook looking like he might be a star. And he could, by the time the Ashes rolls around, Harry Brook could be undroppable. Johnny Bairstow, he certainly is. Ollie Pope doesn't look like he's going anywhere. So we're back to a very familiar question, and this is going to be something for Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum to do. That's why they get paid the big bucks. But opener is the position. And
well, do you know who I think is going to do it?
In the
Ben
Ashes?
Stokes.
Oh, bloody hell.
It's the logical extension. It's the only logical extension.
Josh
Ben
Butler.
Stokes.
I mean, it could be Josh Butler. Why not? It could be anyone. But that they may ultimately have to move someone, because, and this was the only other thing I wanted to say about the composition of the team. is Ben Duckett has done really, really well in these two games, coming in out of the cold, opening the batting. But the way he's done it, it doesn't look like it makes him a lock for New Zealand or a lock for the English summer. He said today, I came out and swept 90% of my balls. Now, this is great. And horses for courses is underrated in batting, in certainly by Test match cricket teams. But Ben Duckett has done well, and I don't know that he's gone any closer to opening in the Ashes. It could be two separate timelines unfolding there.
Right. Well, in that case, it's going to have to be either Brooke, Pope, or Stokes.
Yeah, basically.
In order to keep them all in. So watch this space. That's going to be. I think we might be coming back to that. Might be coming back to that as soon as New Zealand, but certainly early in the English summer. It's time for our final break. After that, we're going to be looking at Pakistan. They are rejuvenated and are a totally different looking side. And a little word on England's women who are continuing to be successful in the West Indies.
If you love the language of cricket and want more, then head over to the 99.94 app and you can hear all of our podcasts and cricket commentary. We're adding new shows all the time and covering cricket series from all over the world. Be the first to hear all of our announcements by following us on social media at 9994DM. Welcome to Cricket's Conversation.
Welcome back. So Pakistan, unrecognisable. But where was this guy? Why wasn't he playing in the first test? Why was Zahid Mahmood their go-to spinner when they've got this bloke who flicks it off either finger, gets a prodigious turn on his googly, not a huge amount from the leg break, but doesn't need to get a huge amount. Bowled with great control, despite batters coming after him. Absolutely, there was no compromise at all. New guy comes on to bowl, let's try and smash the bejesus out of it. And he showed exceptional temperament. I don't know where he's been. Fahim Ashraf back in the side. Azhar Ali out. That could be injury, but it also felt a bit like composition of team, actually. Babar Azam pushed up to number 3. The whole of that side now suddenly looks better balanced. Looks better balanced from 6, 7, 8 than it did before, where it was kind of a bit top heavy, wasn't it? And for the pitch, they have selected the right bowling options, I think. Now, part of that, we were wondering whether Hassan Ali was going to come in, Mohammed Abbas, but they've taken a look at the Multan pitch and gone, no, it's spinners we need. And so we're going to pluck this guy with glasses out of obscurity that no one's got any footage of. He's going to take the first 7 wickets and look world-beating. Hats off to Pakistan.
Yeah, they did have to change because I think going behind in a 3-test series at home, having had the pace of play dictated to you by the tourists, that doesn't happen that often. But, teams who win away tend to have to produce something quite special. They don't kind of just set the terms of play like England did. So Pakistan had to change, and Abrar really, so far, all we know is that was a really good decision. We don't know exactly about the rest of it, but it did seem like there was a bit of a clamour in Pakistan for him to play. That he wasn't a surprise to anyone in the stands by the looks of it that he was going to come in. So he was solid. The fact that they would have known England didn't have a great deal of footage on him. So he was a bit of a... I mean, this was interesting, actually. In the press conference, Ben Duckett said he's not a mystery spinner. He was dead out. He went out of his way to say he's not a mystery spinner. What are you saying that for? He's a leg spinner with a good googly who bowled well on the day. That was kind of the vibe from him. And that actually they thought he was quite slow through the air. And that brought to mind for me Matt Parkinson, because Matt Parkinson isn't there. And it made me wonder, again, not for the first time, if that was a decision that England have been too hasty with, to decide that he's not the guy. With batting, if Azhar Ali was fit, I'm surprised, because I thought he had a big game in him in this series, because he is a player who can set a trench, bat long, go hard. And by go hard, I don't mean score really quickly. I mean just make life hard, make life difficult, and make them come again. Make Mark Wood bowl another spell, another spell, another spell. So as our, don't know, they could be lacking in the qualities he shows, but I think Babar Azam at 3, excellent for Pakistan. It's the whole thing England have had with Joe Root in the past. God, we would like our best batter up at 3. We'd like our best batter at 3. Best batter doesn't want to bat at 3. And just looking about the way that Babar went today, he did flick a little bit of the pressure back onto England early after that quick wicket. And one of England's mantras is get the pressure, flip it on the opposition. And Babar did that against England, and he did it more ably from 3 than 4.
Do you think, watching the way Pakistan batted, that they have in any way been influenced by the way England are batting? Are they, by which I mean, are they going a little bit harder than you would have expected? Or is that really just a function of the way England bowl, which is very attacking, with quite attacking fields? So there are gaps, and they're just playing exactly their normal cricket, but they're just going a bit quicker because they are going faster than they did against Australia. England's bowling pop's not as tight, so they're not going fast against Anderson. Let's be clear. No one's going fast against Anderson. He went under 2 runs and over in the first Test match. But they are going a bit quicker. They are looking to dominate England's bowlers. It seems to me a little more than I was expecting.
Maybe. It doesn't feel to me like they've drank the Kool-Aid just yet. I think a lot of it is a function of attacking fields, and if you beat the infield, you are a good chance for a boundary. Openers haven't gone too hard, I don't think. Babar, I think, on surfaces that aren't ragging, Babar versus Leach, Babar versus Jacks, you would expect his run rate to be up there because he's too good to let them bowl and just let them settle bang, bang, bang onto a length. He's just too good. He's got too many shots, too much control. So I think the pitches and Babar's quality accounts for him scoring reasonably quickly. England's field accounts for a bit of it. I don't get the impression that they are looking to play golf with England, no.
Well, look, it'd be interesting to see how Mohammad Rizwan plays when he comes out to bat, especially if he's partnering Babar Azam. That's the 1 and 2 in their T20 side, reunited in the middle order. I think I might see him going a little hard. Before we leave, just bring us up to date, Rory. England have played their second of 3 one-day internationals of women, England's women, against the West Indies. They've got 3 T20s to come, but they've already wrapped up the series. They're 2-0 up with 1 to play.
Yeah, 2-0. Series in the bag for John Lewis. That's a nice early one. It's taken him 5 minutes to get that on the board. It was the concern for this is that there's 5 T20s to go and a ODI, the third ODI, and West Indies don't look competitive. I'm afraid to say that's a problem for women's cricket. You need competitive games, lots of them, not just a couple of teams being at the standard. England, they had West Indies 8 for 4 in the second game, and both matches by an identical and seems unusual, an identical margin of 142 runs, which is quite big, yeah. I think for England, most pleasing, Lauren Bell looks like she is really thriving now. She looks like she is settling in as a new ball leader of the attack style bowler. Sophia Dunkley is settling at 3, which is an important spot. If you look at Capsey opening the batting, I know she's injured and she's gone home, but she was pushed up to open. Dunkley has spent the last few games at 3. They are empowering and giving responsibility to these younger players. And you've got, the plan was for Alice Capsey and Sophia Dunkley to help set the foundation for the likes of Heather Knight, Nat Siver, Daddy Wyatt to come and build on. It's not the other way around. And that's exciting for English cricket because they are setting the agenda, the younger players, and moving it forward, which is good, I think. And as I say, Lauren Bell looks like she could really, really benefit from the sort of wealth of fast bowling knowledge that's now in the background there.
Well, we will obviously be keeping more than an eye on that. There's a third game coming up shortly, and then all those T20s. But for now, thank you for listening to England Cricket on 99.94, where we speak cricket every day. Please rate, review, subscribe wherever you enjoy your podcasts. You can download the 99.94 app and follow us on Twitter. In my case, I forgot my Twitter handle, at Norcross Cricket.
You're neither angry nor cross, even I know that.
Yeah, that's true. That's how you remember. And Rory, yours?
The RVD, not the hardcore wrestler, the hardcore wire journalist. You can follow us both though if you want.
Well, why not? You might as well. You compare and contrast. Put your feeds side by side. Never miss out. Join our 24/7 conversation on social media and follow us at 9994DM. Cricket every day, your way.